So, an idea that's making the rounds right now is the idea of pandemic amnesty. And my answer to that is no. Conditional forgiveness? Yes. So let's explain what's going on here and what's the difference and a lot of whys. Okay, so amnesty, taking the rough definition of it, a pardon extended by government to a group of or class of people, usually for a political offense. The act of a sovereign power officially forgiving certain classes of people who are subject to trial but have not yet been convicted. Though the term general pardon has a similar definition, an amnesty constitutes more than a pardon, insomuch as it obliterates all legal remembrance of the offense. So amnesty is not acceptable because we cannot forget what happened. It has to be remembered. However, I'm very much in favor of the idea of conditional forgiveness because there's a certain class of people out there, the cancel culture out there, where if someone makes some offense and then they ask for forgiveness or acknowledge that they've made an offense, and they still get canceled. Forgiveness has to be there. There has to be a path to redemption. There has to be a way for people to acknowledge they've goofed. So, quite simply, the first thing is why there cannot be amnesty and why forgiveness has to be conditional. First, they have to understand what they did. Okay? For everything you got wrong during the pandemic, they've undermined the public faith in virtually everything. They've caused massive division. It would appear a lot of this was fabricated for political purposes. This has done lasting damage, incredible amounts of lasting damage. There were a lot of people who died because of isolation, suicide, other things like that were brought on by the supposed remedies that these various people were pushing for the pandemic. It's caused long-term psychological damage. You've got people out there, percentage probably around 10% if you look at the people wandering around out there who still think the pandemic's going on. They live in terror. You've destroyed their lives. They're miserable, horrible people. It's not a life when all you have is fear. You've set children back years. Some of them may never recover from this. They may be permanently set back. You can't do the kind of psychological damage to a child in the first 6 years and expect there not to be a permanent residual effect. Okay? There can be no amnesty for this. Now, the first thing, if you are looking for conditional forgiveness, is you have to understand and admit what you got wrong. If there's an element of this, whatever part of it is, public policy, medical policy, trusting the wrong people, trusting people you thought were trustworthy, whatever it is, first, understand what you did and say it. Then you have to explain what it is you got wrong. And I mean, I'm not asking for people to grovel. I mean, anyone can sit there and say, hey, wow, I got caught up in the moment. I screwed up. This is what I got wrong. I thought this person here was somebody I could trust. And, because there is a point where you have to find a way to trust expertise somewhere because not all of us can be experts in everything. So figure out what you got wrong and say it. And then, this is the critical part, you have to analyze why you got it wrong. And it should be one of those things where you go, okay, what went wrong here? Why did I fall for this? Why did I jump into this? And why did I become part of the vanguard of pushing this? Okay. Once you understand why you got it wrong, then you have a very simple thing to answer at that point. What are you doing to avoid the same mistake in the future? Pretty simple stuff. And I think if you could do that, you should have conditional forgiveness. I mean, at that point, you are forgiven. And people should not be rubbing it in your face that you got it wrong during the pandemic. It's understandable how you could be led astray. But the idea that everybody involved should get some kind of blanket amnesty, no way in hell. I'm sorry. The amount of damage done is just too phenomenal just to say, forget about it. It didn't happen. No, it did happen. Acknowledge your part. Join the society of the sane and rational again. Welcome back. Well, what do you think about what I'm saying here? Do you agree with my idea versus amnesty versus forgiveness? Do you think conditional forgiveness is even something that we should be doing? Comment below. Tell me what you think about conditional forgiveness. Tell me if I'm off on my understanding of amnesty. If you like my content here, please smash the like button. If there's somebody out there you think might find this interesting, share it with them. And I put out little things like this a couple times a week, several times a week. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Well, I appreciate the time you spent with me tonight. Hope to see you again in a future video.